Right, everyone, patch 2.5. I know a lot of you have been waiting for it. It has been a big build-up. There's been a lot of hype around it. I will talk a little bit about the kind of like what they've actually hit and what they haven't managed to hit at the end. But I think in general, this patch is a good one. I've kind of read through it. I think this patch is a good one. And I think it is the foundation for what could be a really successful platform for Wildrift, specifically the guilds, which we'll talk about once we get there. Firstly, though, Veigar is getting released tonight. I will try and do a video on this, by the way. He's not getting released too late, so I'll try and do a video on this before I go to bed. But basically, Veigar is AP stacking Nasus. Basically, he stacks up ability power throughout the game through his abilities, just makes him really strong. And he has an ability which I think is going to be insane. He has an ability called, well, I call it the baby cage. Can't remember what it's actually called, but basically giant cage, and it stuns everybody when you touch the sides. So I think he's going to be a really, really strong character in this game because like Wildrift is very, very chaotic. It's very team fight focused, and in general, the kind of like the sort of abilities that just have big team wide impact tend to be the most impactful, and that's an ability which I think is going to dominate around neutral objective fights. Like the fact that we have so many neutral objective fights that are up so often really does make me think that Veigar is going to be a massive pick. I think Veigar in both bot, support, and mid is going to turn out to be a very, very strong pick all round. And I think just for the pure fact that he has that third ability is probably going to make him pick ban. A little bit like Ziggs, even in competitive. Because I just think there are too many reasons to group up and fight in Wildrift, and Veigar absolutely loves that. Even if he doesn't stack up that ability power, that third ability, the massive baby cage of stuns, that is going to be so impactful in this game. So I really do think Veigar is going to be a super competitive pick. All right, guilds. Quite a lot of talk about this in the hype video, but essentially, you're going to be able to create a guild from level 9 onwards. It costs wild cores or poro coins, just so that people can't randomly spam guilds. Little note on that, you might see a guild between me and a other content creator. We might be making a joint guild. I'm not going to talk about it too much, don't want to give too much away, but it might be happening. In general, being part of a guild just gives you access to guild-only chat. You can do reactor posts. You can play pre-made lobbies. There's going to be like specialized icons, tags, and labels. And you're going to get your guild plate, which appears on your banner when you're loading up into game. And also there's going to be these little sort of guild versus guild matchups, which is essentially like you don't actually play versus the other guild, but you complete missions to get the most supplies. And the person with the most supplies at the end gets some extra rewards. So generally, it's going to favor guilds that are very active and playing together as a team, which I think is going to be really good. And you get matched up against another guild. I'm hoping there's going to be a guild leaderboard. You're going to get either Zorn or Piltover to play for. But essentially, you get these like points that you rack up, and each guild's first matchup will be against a bot guild as a practice run. So for your first week, you're going to go up against a bot guild. Most of you should win that. I'm hoping there's going to be a leaderboard because that will help create a bit of competitiveness between the guilds. I guess we'll have to see. There's this whole thing about armed and unarmed. So at the start of each week, all guild members will either be assigned armed or unarmed. And basically, you've got to arm as many people in your guild as possible, and you can do that by just playing with armed players. So unarmed players have got to play with armed players, and you just try and arm everyone in your guild, and you get rewards and bonus rewards at the end of the week. You can also sabotage at the end of the week. So the guild that is behind at the end of the week has a 24-hour period to sabotage. But it's pretty cool. I think I'm kind of interested to see and explore it a bit further to see exactly how it plays out. I think it's one of those things that will be cool to encourage people to play together, but I really would love to see them expand on this with like leaderboards and potentially like a 5v5 guild system, like a 5v5 like clash type thing where you can actually play 5v5 games versus another guild. That to me, it feels like the end game for this type of thing. This to me feels like they've created guilds, they've implemented something. This is the starting point. I imagine they're going to want to build on this and start implementing ways for you to play against other guilds in actual games of Wild Rift or in ARAMs or all the different types of game modes. That, to me, feels like the end game for guilds, which I think is, for me, the best way to approach it. You're winning, you get most supplies and missions done with champion favor and whether the sabotage was a success or not. And then essentially you get rewards, and you get rewards at the end of the week. So it's pretty cool. It's basically a way to encourage you playing versus each other. And I think in general, it's a good starting point for guilds. I do think it's one of those things that they will need to iterate on and try and build on as quickly as possible, because otherwise it's just going to be one of those things that's just another set of missions to do. You know, eventually it's going to get to the point where it is just another set of missions to do, and that will become a little less interesting. It'll be more interesting if there's a leaderboard, and like I said, maybe, you know, the evolution of this is going to be guild 5 versus 5 down the line. I hope, anyway. That would be where I would want to take the particular feature of the game. Okay, matchmaking. So, a new matchmaking algorithm which causes the system to focus more on your MMR, which, if you saw my video on this a while back, is basically the matchmaking number that you don't get to see, which is based on like win streaks and loss streaks, you know, what type of players you're winning and losing against, how, you know, all that kind of thing. This basically focuses purely on your MMR and not on your visual skill tier. So essentially, your visual skill tier is like silver, gold, platinum, emerald, diamond, etc. Your MMR is this magic number behind the scenes, which basically is like the true estimate of what your skill is compared to the rest of the player base. So what you might end up seeing is like you go into a game and you might match with a wider range of visual skill tiers. That was pretty much already happening, by the way. But now they're kind of openly saying you're going to see that. They are going to add an icon to anybody that is significantly below the average for the game to basically say this person's better than the rank that they're displaying right now. So it's like a badge of confidence. That emerald player in your diamond game deserves to be here because they're playing very well right now, and we think that they are better than your average emerald player. That's the TLDR of the matchmaking changes. Or rather, the matchmaking changes that specifically focus on the MMR and the wide range of visual skill tiers. They're introducing a back-end system that adjusts the way that they create matches in real time. In patch 2.4 and before, the matchmaker only let players match if their MMR and rank were in a certain distance of each other. This distance started small and then grew a set amount every second, which happened over a 2-minute period. After that, the allowed rank MMR gap had fully expanded, and the system stayed in this expanded state for the next 18 minutes, for a total of 20 possible searching minutes. At that point, the search timed out and needed to be restarted. This meant that it was always faster to keep waiting than it was to restart your search within the 20 minutes, because every time you restarted your search, you'd have to re-expand over 20 minutes, or over 2 minutes. In patch 2.5, the matchmaker starts out with the expansion set to be as big or as small as needed, using real-time data on the players in the matchmaking pool. So basically, they will basically decide how many people are already in the queue, or how many people are already playing right now within a certain MMR ranking distance. And it will say, if there are not that many people that are super close to you, they'll immediately open it up so that you're not waiting 2 minutes. It will just say, we think this is the best match that you're going to get within the next 5 to 10 minutes. We're just going to give it to you. When it comes to and high elo, this is especially important because high elo players often were waiting for a very, very long time. It also means we shouldn't be getting like ridiculously long queues in high elo anymore, or at least it will be at least 2 minutes slower. I'll put it that way. They're hoping to make it 3 to 5 minutes overall. Ranked gains, particularly in high-ranked games, should now be more consistent. This change also fixes an issue where players could catapult from Master to Challenger by manipulating VP gains. So basically, there was a problem. I don't know if you heard Hell's Devil talk about it. It was beneficial to climb to Challenger by staying in Master, because you would basically stay in Master. You would not go to Grandmaster automatically. You would have to wait until the 24-hour time limit for you to get into Grandmaster. And you could basically get plus 20, minus 10 all the time, all the way up to Challenger. In Grandmaster, you would get plus 13, minus 17 or something like that, right? So it would be harder for you to go into Grandmaster and then get to Challenger than it would be for you to stay in Master and just try and grind all the way to Challenger in one sitting, which wasn't very healthy for the game, because you'd find a lot of Grandmaster players did not want to play in Grandmaster and would just wait until they went back to Master until they were able to play and look for Challenger again. So, of course, new season, new Wild Pass. Or I don't know if it's a new season, but basically a new Wild Pass. You're going to get a UI revamp, Hexplorer Tristana. You're going to get loads of different types of rewards. Players will get rewards all the way up to level 50. Purchasing an Elite pass will allow you to get extra missions and get more content beyond level 50. You're going to get added more profile borders, etc. Loads of different rewards in the Wild Pass. It's going to be a pretty cool one. You can now stream to Twitch directly from Wild Rift, which is actually really cool. I don't do that because I have an Elgato, but for those of you that don't have PCs or Elgatos, it's a nice way to potentially start streaming. Definitely expands the pool of people that might be able to start streaming Wild Rift. It's going to be pretty cool. Position preference in unranked PvP. Let's go. I'm really happy about this. I thought that this was something they were apprehensive to add because of player base, and maybe they didn't have enough people in that queue to ensure consistent games. But I'm really, really excited about this. The one thing that you have to remember, this is going to remain blind pick. However, because it's blind pick, you could very well see people just get into game and say, well, I'm going mid as support, right? So this is something that could still very much happen, but it hopefully will allow you to have a reportable feature. Anyway, it's a nice thing because that now means I can play normal PvP games, which I never liked playing because I'd never get the position that I wanted. I like to play normal PvP. I liked to play normal PvP games to not practice support, for instance, because I wanted to play like mid or top, but I could never do that because no one wants to play support. So I'd always go into normal PvP games and have to end up supporting because no one else wanted to. Sorry, I can't talk right now. It is nearly 9 o'clock. Getting a load of different skins. I'm really excited about the dragon skins. They're really awesome. The Kai'Sa one. Kai'Sa obviously gets loads of skins because she's a hot girl. Wait, I didn't say that, did I? That's the meme in League PC. All the popular, usually hot girl champions get the skins. Why not? It sells. Loads of accessories this patch. Look, loads and loads of accessories this patch. I love these little cute charms. I think they're really cool. But loads of accessories, which is great. A couple of new recalls. Loads of new icons and emotes. Loads of stuff they're adding this patch, actually. It's pretty awesome. There's a load of rift emblems that are going down, and there's also a couple of spawn tags, which I think is really cool, by the way. The different dragons, you're going to get spawn tags. Love those. I think they're really, really cool. Someone followed me, and I got a notification. Well, thank you for whoever that was. Cool. We're getting Vigar. He's coming tonight. I'll try and do a video on him. The Dragon seek a new champion. Which blessing will you earn? The Way of the Dragonmancers event begins on October 20th. Okay, here we go. Champion changes. Wow. We are 12 minutes into it and we didn't even get champion changes. I'll probably add a timestamp for this because it is a very long patch. Ahri is overperforming, and actually I'm going to show you an example of what I mean right now. So this is wildstats.gg, by the way. If you want to go and look at this website, it's wildstats.gg. So this is Ahri. She is the second... let's go to win rate. Yeah, this is a problem because unfortunately they've got very low games for some of them. So when you try to sort by win rate... Anyway, Ahri has got a 20.25% pick rate, so she's picked in 1 in 5 games, and she's got a 52% win rate overall, which is actually pretty high. And if you then start separating that out into... there isn't enough data in iron. Wow, there's not enough data in bronze. Let's go silver. You separate that into silver. She's got a 68% win rate in silver. There's not that many games there. Let's try and go to gold. She's got a 60% win rate in gold, even though there's only 85 games. But basically, you can see that she's got a very high win rate and a very high pick rate across the board. Go to Emerald. I think Emerald has got a decent amount. Nope, only 18. Looks like, is it like only Diamond players? Or is it only Master players that submit their games? Anyway, all tiers. Doesn't look like some of them are sorted into tiers, but 1,080 games, she's got a 52% win rate. There you go. I can't believe Yasuo has picked this much, by the way, and has a good win rate. That's pretty insane. But regardless, she's got a very high KDA on average. She's picked in 1 in 5 games that this website records. 52% win rate. I think it's a pretty good thing to say that Ahri's in a good spot. Right. So she's getting I didn't even tell you about the bloody nerfs. She's getting a base health reduction, mana per levels going down, and the Orb of Deception, both the magic damage and the true damage, is coming down by 5 every rank. It is a relatively small nerf, to be fair. Relatively small. This is one of those nerfs that's like a love tap. It's not really trying to do too much to her win rate, but just trying to bring her down in power level ever so slightly. I still think Ahri will remain exactly where I've always found her to be, which is like an A to B tier champion. think she's still going to be solid. I like I said, like whenever they make these absolutely minuscule ability power changes, even though this is technically 10 damage if you hit them both times with Orb of Deception, don't think it is a huge shift in Ahri's power level. We now have the technology to make Akshan's heroic swing feel better when used in obtuse, greater than 90 degrees. I love how they gave the definition for an obtuse angle. Here are some quality of life changes to help Akshan players make better decisions about his ultimate. Akshan will now slide along the wall if he hits an obtuse angle mid-swing. It now has an indicator that displays enemy within a kill threshold, and the tooltip now accurately states the shots execute minions. So it's just a tooltip that now accurately states that shots execute minions, and it now lets you know if an enemy will die to Akshan's ultimate. So essentially, Akshan's getting a mini quality of life buff. I think he's already in a good spot, by the way. I think Akshan's actually in a relatively good spot. From everything that I've seen, I think he's a good pick right now. So he's going to be, in a really nice spot on the next patch. Annie's ultimate is too generous in allowing her to stun targets from long distance, and it's currently too easy to snag multiple enemies in a single cast. We're bringing down the radius and the damage of the initial Tibbers cast, but to compensate, we're pulling power out of her Molten Shield in order to buff the bear up himself and to make him into a larger threat. Molten Shield's cooldown is now going up in the early game, down in the late game, and the shield value is AP scaling is coming down, but technically the base shield value is going up in the late game. But in general, it's kind of an overall nerf to shield amount for the majority of the game. Tibbers is getting an effect radius reduction. His base damage is getting reduced by a pretty hefty amount in the late game. His Flame Aura radius effect is going up by 100, which is actually a pretty significant increase. It's a 50% increase in its current range. And the damage per second is going up to with a little bit of an AP ratio increase. And the frequency is increased from 1 tick per second to 4 ticks per second. Okay, right. So, right. This is not that it's suddenly quadrupling its damage. Basically, it's saying that it will apply damage every 0.25 seconds, right? So what it's saying is that it will deal damage, this amount of damage per second. It used to deal that damage every 1 second. It will now deal that damage in 4 stages every 0.25 seconds. So basically means those minuscule moments where Tibbers may be able to finish off a low HP target, it will be more consistent in doing that. And his Enrage attack speed no longer decays. So he's now going to be a really beefy, insane, slapping bear when Annie dies, I think. So he's going to have an Enrage. Actually, when does Tipper actually enrage? Does he enrage when Annie dies? I think he enrages when Annie dies, right? Anyway, he's now going to be scary. However, what I would say about this is that the damage and the stun radius is kind of what made Annie Annie. For Annie to be viable in high elo, she was kind of this pick that you would have to be able to proto belt or belt enchant into Tibbers, and that's kind of what made Annie Annie. So I'm a little conscious that this is going to decrease her efficacy. However, it is a pretty sizable buff to Tibbers' damage, and also his attack speed increase is going to be pretty nice, or rather the fact that his attack speed doesn't decrease. So let's see how she, if she becomes a bit more of a kind of a brawling, dueling type carry. She'll still have that burst damage associated with her, of course, but whether Tibbers makes up for that now by being a bit more of a brawling type ability, we'll have to see. Just a little worried that overall Annie was always used for engaged stuns, and the fact that you're toning down on the engaged stun might reduce Annie's efficacy overall. However, this is a pretty sizable increase to Tibbers' consistent damage. We'll just have to see if that is if that's going to make him or her more viable out of just being a stun bot and an engage tool. I still think she's going to have that same role, by the way. Just because they've reduced the radius doesn't mean that you can't still use belt into Tibbers. It just means that she's going to be a little bit less effective. Wow, we're still on the A's. We're at to Ashe. Ashe's utility is not quite hitting the mark in general, so we're boosting the Frost Archer's passive. Her slow amount per level is going from 20 to 30% by level, and the critical slow amount is going from 40 to 60%. So they're basically just trying to focus in on the fact that Ashe is going to be a utility AD carry, but this is a pretty sizable slow increase, so I think Ashe could be played. She's already getting played in competitive a little bit. The problem with Ashe in solo queue is she's not really a carry pick. She is more there to help support your team and engage. She's a utility AD carry. So this might be much more valuable for competitive. I don't know why I'm threatening everybody with a screwdriver, by the way. I have this mini screwdriver that I've just been playing with all day. I'm not going to shank you, guys. I'm not going to shank you, don't worry. But this might be more effective for competitive than it is for solo queue, basically. TLDR. Aurelion Sol, still on the A's. Aurelion Sol has been quietly safe and power... Has he? Has he really? I don't know about that one. Anyway. They're nerfing Aurelion Sol. Maybe the stats told them otherwise, you know? I like that they made the little pun with space. Great pun, guys. Good job, Ben. Anyway, the base stats and armor is coming down. The bonus movement speed is coming down by 10% as well. So basically, he's not going to be as fast. He's also going to be easier to kill. Feels bad, man, for anyone that actually still plays Aurelion Sol. Camille. Camille is dominant in multiple positions for highly skilled players, and we believe that she has too much flexibility in her position selection. We are removing her ability to clear the jungle quickly now, as the second cast of Hookshot no longer hits jungle monsters. This will also disable Camille's ability to trigger Hookshot attack speed buff in order to make her jungle play a riskier bet that will rely more on ganks to succeed. That's actually... I think this kills the Camille in the jungle anyway. I mean, you might still be able to play her, but you're going to have a really slow clear speed now. Yeah, I think this might actually kill the Camille jungle. She might now be kind of forced into the Baron lane. I like the flexibility. I actually like the flexibility of the Camille pick. This definitely... Look, the fact is, you're now going to hookshot over the wall, and you're actually going to go straight through a jungle monster. So you're just going to go straight through the jungle monsters. You're not going to get the attack speed either. And you're not going to stun them. So you're going to take more damage. You're not going to clear them as quickly. And also you're going to jump straight past them. So yeah, I think this probably ruins Camille's jungle, if I'm honest with you. I think Camille might now be a Baron laner, and a Baron laner only. Look, I'll be real, like, junglers might find a way to make it work, but I just don't see her being a super competitive jungle pick. Too slow clear, will take too much damage. And yeah, I just think I think it's going to hurt her a lot. Diana is very close to being a viable jungler, so we're now giving her a light nudge to help her succeed a little bit more. Moonsilver Blade now deals 110% damage to monsters, just about trying to boost her clear speed, trying to make her viable as a jungler. She's not as viable jungler as she is in mid, so this might help her get through the camps a bit more quickly. You know, it's difficult to say when it's a 10% increase because, you know, you'd need to test it to really see if it's good. But it's a light nudge to try and make Diana a jungler. We'll have to see how it pans out. Fizz players have given us some feedback about Fizz's ultimate fish not matching its hitbox. We agree. We are better fixing it to match its visuals so it's easier to position around. Okay, so basically, it's not clear when you're walking past Fizz's little indicator on the ground whether you're going to pick up the ultimate or not. So they're basically trying to make it... I'm assuming this is my assumption is it might be like a nerf to the overall range. I'm not really sure. They haven't really expanded on it right now. I don't know whether it was hitting people outside of the hitbox or it was a little bit too... Like, you had to go into the hitbox a bit too much. Either way, it could be a buff, it could be a nerf, who knows. Depends which way they had to change the radius on the hitbox. Or change the actual hit on the radius anyway. Galio. Galio's tanky support... Is it really? Galio's tanky support build is performing a little too well on all skill levels, which makes him an overly flexible pick. We are taking a light chip out of his Shield of Durand to make playstyles invest points into it early a little bit less effective. So you're just going to get less damage. Oh, well, who cares? It's not really what you pick it for. You don't pick Shield of Durand for the damage. You pick it for the stun. The taunt duration and the fact that you get extra resistances. So it's like this is a 30 damage nerf in the late game is a pretty sizable nerf. But I'm going to be real with you. From what I knew, that most Galios in support usually just max their first ability anyway. But regardless, you know, light nerf to Galio, like a light nerf to Galio. He's still going to be picked for whatever he's picked for in general. Oh, Gragas is getting a nerf again. His explosive clask cooldown is going up, and the base damage is going down in the early game. Wow, they really want to neuter Gragas, don't they? This definitely hurts tank Gragas more than anything, because obviously if you're going tank Gragas, you generally don't build much AP. But damn, they really want to chunk down Gragas. sad because he's just such a solid pick. Like, he's just one of those picks that you can pretty much play anywhere. But essentially, he was being played in competitive quite a lot. So I understand why they've done it. Jarvan. It's a little clunky. Yeah, do you know what? I agree with Jarvan. I do think his flag and drag combo is a little clunky. So they sped up the dash time when using Dragon Strike to dash to Demacian Standard. So basically, you're going to make it less. I can't really work out. Is this like a quality of life change? Or is this basically saying if you dash to your Demacian Standard, you're going to do it quicker now? Because if you're doing it quicker now, that's actually a buff, and that makes Jarvan's ganks more effective, and also makes him more annoying in teamfights to flash away from, for instance. So if it's a buff to his overall dash speed to the flag, it's a pretty solid little buff for Jarvan. Don't think it's going to suddenly make him super viable, but it's a nice little buff. Jarvan takes those. Jhin. Jhin is sitting at an acceptable power level, but his utility is a bit under. The root duration on his Deadly Flourish is actually going up. Cool. Not many people get rooted by Deadly Flourish. Actually, that's a lie. Yeah, they do. It's one of his main things. I thought, for some reason, I was talking about the stupid flowers on the floor. Okay, so root duration is going up. In the late game, 2 seconds. That's actually quite nice. If you catch someone out with Deadly Flourish, that's, a pretty solid root duration. Allows your team to capitalize on it really well. We believe Kennen is close to having a healthy presence in the metagame, but we're increasing his base AD and his Lightning Rush bonus movement speed. Okay, so basically his base AD is going back up, right? Didn't that get nerfed a while ago? I'm pretty sure they nerfed Kennen's base AD a while ago, but they're buffing it again. Basically, he's going to start to become a bit more of a lane bully. Again, I've always said about lane bullies, it's actually quite difficult to make that happen, or like to really take advantage of being a lane bully in this game, because it is so easy to go back to base and then come back and everything be K, like it's so easy to sort of not, basically it's very easy to not get punished in lane, because you can just go back to base and heal up and you lose very little for it. So, these lane bully champions, I don't think they get as much out of being a lane bully as they maybe should. Cool, Lee Sin nerfs. It has been a long time since people have been asking for this. We're softly reworking Iron Will, so it persists across 2 attacks, but deals less damage with each hit. Empowers next attack to deal XXX plus magic damage and gain blah 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 physical vamp. Empowers the next 2 attacks to deal slightly lower magic damage and gain, slightly higher magic damage across 2 attacks, but they're lowered, and gain certain amount of physical and magic vamp. So overall, reducing the damage that he does immediately on hit, and it means that he has to commit 2 basic attacks to get that damage down now. Even though the damage in general is going up here across the 2, the 2 attacks, this is a decent nerf because it was so easy for Lee Sin to jump in, activate the Iron Will, and just slap people for an empowered basic attack. So this is now going to, force him to commit to at least 2 basic attacks, which is a little harder to pull off sometimes. So it's a slight rework. It definitely doesn't make Lee Sin bad, but it definitely cuts down his power level in terms of that pure burst damage that we were used to. So I like this a lot. Good change, and I definitely welcome it. Lux is very closey? That's not a word. Close to being healthy spot. We're going to give her ultimate an AP buff increase. Cool. AP ratio on Final Spark going up by 0.1. That's quite nice. I think Lux is not that healthy in mid, but definitely maybe at low elos you're seeing her played a bit more. I think she's just a little bit slow, but that's nice. The nice buff is going to help her clear waves, and obviously if she lands the full combo, especially the fact that she goes full AP in mid, maybe get that extra little bit of damage off to sort of blow people up. It's quite nice. Nunu's too strong. We are nerfing his base armor. We are nerfing his true damage to monsters in the late game. The base healing's coming down, and the heal HP ratio is coming down. Okay, I mean, sad because, Nunu was quite good. He was pretty strong. I liked playing him. The fact that they're nerfing his true damage by 180 in the late game is the biggest change, because this is now putting it like 200 damage away from smite range, I believe. So it's going to be a little less effective, or a little harder to go like smite eat or smite consume to ensure that you're getting objectives. But to be real with you, very few junglers are still going to be able to outsmite Nunu. He's still going to have like what, a 1,800, 1,700 burst in the late game on neutral objectives with smite. So it's still very difficult to outsmite. You have to time it absolutely perfectly. In general, though, he's just becoming a little less tanky and a little less sustainable, which is fair enough. Nunu was very tanky and very sustainable. Pantheon has been struggling to find a place. Basically, they're reducing the cooldown on Grand Starfall. Cool. It's like a negligible change, gonna be honest with you. Like 10 seconds on his ultimate's probably not gonna make a difference. These 10-second windows where Pantheon was going across the map, like they are so difficult to exploit. You know, like a 10-second buff, like it's not suddenly gonna make Pantheon's absolutely nutty. So yeah, it's a small change. I don't expect it's gonna really shift Pantheon's power level too much. Riven is broken, apparently. Broken Wings, the base damage is coming down by 5, and that's every single cast. So I think that's, what, like 15 at every rank? 15 on it across the whole thing. And the Valor cooldown, which is her shield, is going up by 1 second at all ranks. It's like a small change. Like, again, like 15 damage across all 3 casts of Broken Wings is not a massive amount. And the cooldown of 1 second on her shield, that's the one that's going to hurt the most. You know, I do think that Riven did rely on these timely shields to really get, you know, the most out of team fights. But I still think Riven's going to be strong. Like, I still think people are going to play Riven. You're going to see Darkbreaker smurfing on that like crazy. Seraphine. Oh my gosh. She starts with max echo stacks. This basically means you don't need to take your first ability. You can now take any of your abilities. This actually means you can now take your root level 1. I think it's your second ability or your third ability. I think it's your third ability, actually. You can take your third ability level 1 and just root someone at level 1. This makes Seraphine's level 1 so much better. It also makes her support level 1 really good because you can just kind of wait and root people and deal a huge amount of damage. So I like that change. Quality of life might make Seraphine more viable as a support. In competitive, you generally tend to see her played as like an AP mid or an AD carry, but now that might make her laning presence a little bit better, which is nice. Shyvana is sucking, which is true because you nerfed her like crazy for like 3 patches in a row. Fury of the Dragonborn, bonus damage against elemental dragons, and Elder Dragon is going up by 5%, and they are rebuffing her burnout base magic damage to help her clear speed a bit better. Cool. You know, I like that a lot. I think, you know, Shyvana is supposed to be this heavy, like, farm-focused clearing jungler, so this is a pretty solid set of changes. The problem is that she is so reliant on dragons, and that's one of the problems that Shyvana is always going to have. It's like, she relies so heavily on dragons that, you know, if you don't get them, it really limits her power level in the game. But I think Shyvana is one of those junglers that kind of needs to exist because she's, like, low skill requirements, and so therefore, you know, like, it's not a daunting thing to play a Shyvana in the jungle. So I like the fact that they're giving her some love. I like Shyvana a lot. I like to play Shyvana quite a lot, so I like that they're giving her some love. Soraka is falling off a bit too much in high level play after our last round of changes. We want her to have higher payoff when she's successful at popping her only hard crowd control, which is the Equinox root duration. It's getting a small root duration increase, a little bit like Jhin. Don't envision that it's going to suddenly start making her ridiculously strong. I still think Soraka, unfortunately, is one of those champions that is outperformed, outshined by other enchanters. And the fact that she sacrifices so much health to heal people makes her such an easy target in teamfights, especially with assassins being quite strong right now. Tristana sucks, so we're making rapid fire a lower cooldown and explosive charge a lower cooldown again. Do I think this is going to make her ridiculously strong? No, I don't think it will. I think Tristana still has this really big power trough in the mid game that not a lot of other AD carries do. However, I do think a lot of the I think she's been overlooked a little bit because I do think a lot of the new AD carry items really benefit her. And the fact that, you know, Bloodthirster gives crit now gives her a way to sustain and also build towards a critical strike build path. So, you know, I think Tristana in general is, you know, an okay spot. Like, I don't think Tristana's OP or anything, but I think she's in an okay spot, and I think people do slightly undervalue Tristana as a pick. Okay, so these, oh my god, how many Tryndamere changes? Okay, Tryndamere has struggled as a laner, but performed quite well as a jungler. This patch, we're taking a larger swing at balancing out his positions by giving him a new mechanic he can take advantage of in the lane more than in the jungle. So, his base attack damage is coming down, his AD per level is going up, and his starting bonus attack speed is going down to 10%. His passive, crit rate gained from Fury, 1.6 to 3% based on level, and doubled at 100 Fury is 3.2% to 5% per point of Fury, based on level, but caps out at level 10. So basically, you don't need to get all the way to max level. and you're going to get up to... You're going to get 5% point of... Let me work this out. He's got 100 Fury. And it's going to go up to 5% per point. So at max Fury stacks, you technically have 500% crit rate. But it also means you only need 20 Fury to have 100% crit. Am I reading this wrong? You get 100% crit at 20 Fury? I think so. I think so, guys. Fury gained from units killed with attacks up to 15, which means his minions that you kill in lane. Attacking a champion gains attack speed for 5 seconds. Yo. Isn't that kind of nutty? The heal amount has been buffed. His mocking shout slow has been reduced. And his passive, he basically increases his new passive. Isn't that kind of crazy? Like, he's got more crit at level 1 now. And if he attacks a champion, he's going to get an attack speed boost. Can't you just get like 100% crit? Like 3.2% per point of Fury means you're going to need about like 50 Fury or something. And you're going to have... well, less than that, like 30 Fury, and you're going to have 100% crit rate. So you kill 2 minions, you get 30 Fury, and then you just slap the enemy champion in lane, and I don't even think he's going to be able to trade against you, because you have a massive attack speed steroid, and you're like 100% crit. I know they've dialed down his basic attack damage to compensate for this, but isn't that just absolutely insane? Like, isn't Tryndamere just going to be straight up broken? I don't know, we'll have to see. I'm going to talk to my resident Mozilla Tryndamere one trick, but it feels like he's going to be absolutely broken. Wukong. He's clearing the jungle too quickly, so we're removing his ability to amplify his damage. Stacks on champions or epic monsters, and epic monsters are only like red and blue buff, right? Only stacked against champions and large monsters. So our epic monsters like Baron, Dragon, and the red and blue buff, I think. Anyway, regardless, that Wukong's clear speed was apparently too good. He already took a lot of damage in the jungle, by the way, so I feel kind of bad for Wukong jungle players. Ziggs is too powerful and has been in the too powerful for forever. They're just nerfing his passive. By the way, just like shock value, Ziggs' passive is not that the strong part of his kit. That's never what people don't care about Ziggs' passive, really. Yeah, basically they're nerfing it in the mid game, but making it the same in the late game. Whatever, that's literally going to make no difference. Ziggs is still going to be banned in every competitive game ever. We don't care about ARAM changes. Well, yeah, no, we don't care about ARAM. We get Scryer's Bloom, that's it. There we go. Cannon minions can no longer grant true sight. Whatever. To prevent miscasts, abilities that can no longer target abilities that buff allies can no longer target clones. These include Molten Shield, Astral Infusion, Eye of the Storm, and Lux Help picks. Okay, so who's got clones in this game? Like Wukong and stuff like that. Okay, fine. I'm guessing this is like every ability that buffs people, like even like Lulu's ultimate. Graceful Charity. After reviewing the effects of our change to gold acquisition over the last year, we feel we've drained too much gold from supports as a role. We're buffing the Graceful Charity passive gold mechanic from patch 2.4 that should allow us to isolate buffs to the support position. The bonus gold passive starting time is down at 4 minutes, so when first dragon spawns, and you're going to get extra 2 gold per second. So supports are actually going to get quite a lot of extra gold, which is nice as a support main. I like that. We're making Flash interact more consistently with non-ultimate skill shot dash abilities, dashes that don't have a home in on a target. In patch 2.5, Flash will cancel many dash abilities, but still activate or bring their effects to the Flash location. E.g., flashing during Riven's third cast of Broken Rings will apply the knock-up at the new location. Some dash abilities do not allow Flash to cast in the middle of their animation, and these will remain unchanged. This change will likely give more options to skilled players on champions like Riven, Renekton, and Fiora. Flashing during a skill shot dash completely cancels the abilities and its effect, to flashing during a skill shot dash applies the dash damage or effect at the Flash location. So if you flash during renekton slice and dice, you're going to get the damage and also the armor reduction. Riven's broken wings. I'm guessing Fiora's lunge. If you're lunging and then flash, you could potentially proc a vital by flashing to that location. That's pretty cool. I wonder if the direction of like these things matter as well. I'm gonna have to do some testing on that in practice mode. But that's a nice like addition to make wildrift have a higher level of skill expression. We're removing the ability for players to purchase multiple copies of the same tier 3 item. To be clear, this is not a common way that most players play the game, but it can be a trap that new players can fall into since item passes with the same name do not stack. Additionally, if an optimal build involves buying multiple copies of one item, it's probably not super healthy overall, so we're adding a restriction to keep things to unique per build. They can. I love this line. Players can purchase multiple copies of the same tier 3 item. They cannot do that. I'm guessing this is people that just like randomly stacked Rabadons and stuff. I don't know many people that did that seriously, so yeah. Or like people, oh no, but people actually did that on like Draven. People actually did that on like stacking Infinity Edges and stacking Bloodthirsters. That's interesting because that might affect Draven. He's like the only person that I know that like unironically built multiple of the same item. We're updating energized items to better player rewards for investing in it, for allowing energized damage to stack. Rapid Fire Cannon Storm Ranger energized bonus magic now stacks with other energized items passive. Static Shiv. Energized bonus attack bonus damage now stacks with other energized item passives. Static Shiv's individual portion of energized attack bonus can critically strike. Damn. That's like if you're playing like Storm Razor Static Shiv or like Rapid Fire Cannon Static Shiv or something, or Rapid Fire Cannon Storm Razor, like you're suddenly getting like a big value out of those energized damage buffs because that's actually a pretty decent amount of buff that's going to stack. That's actually pretty crazy. That is a big buff to a lot of AD carries. That is very, very cool to see because that's now going to make AD carries, especially in the mid game, feel a lot more impactful. Very cool. Generally, when players use the Proto Belt active in the middle of a dash ability, the objective is to extend their engage or disengage range. In previous patches, Proto Belt's active interrupts the current dash. So we're adjusting it to buffer until the end of the dash animation. This will make it easier to combine Protobelt's active with other abilities for combos without requiring pixel-perfect timing. Using Protobelt enchant during a dash will now cue the effect to occur after the dash finishes. So if you're using Protobelt off the back of like a Fiora lunge or a Riven dash or a Renekton dash or something, it now waits for that ability to complete and then Protobelts. That is interesting because often you would use it as a surprise factor to engage like straight on top of someone. And now, like, especially for a Renekton dash, it's very slow. So like if you're using Protobelt after like a Renekton dash, you're going to be like, dash. So yeah, I don't know. It to me feels like it's going to reduce some of that immediacy of the Protobelt enchant, which I think is a bit of a reduction in skill expression overall. Jungle. We're trying to make the jungle a decent amount of less hectic to play and reduce the likelihood of unhealthy strategies like gold funneling. Overall, we expect the changes to be small net nerfed jungle as it's currently the highest impact position in Wildrift. There we go, vindicated. It definitely is. We've seen gold funneling creep in terms of prevalence. It's not a super healthy strategy overall. We're making Smite a bit more powerful in the jungle and weaker in lane. Having Smite equipped grants 20% extra gold from monsters. And it's also reducing the minion gold XP penalty. That's pretty cool. The only person that I ever knew that this happened on was Master Yi. You'd sometimes see Master Yi pair up with Lulu, and he would farm the jungle and come and farm the lane for both experience and gold. It's not a super common tactic though, so this is just going to make it slightly less powerful. But 20% extra gold from monsters is pretty big. But they're obviously reducing the gold that you gain from monsters to compensate. We're tuning down jungle monster gold to make sure junglers remain roughly equal in power to other positions. Respawn rates are also being tuned as we felt that camps themselves were respawning too quickly, leading to many conflicted situations where jungle had to choose between power farming and ganking. Yes, very true. Felt like all the time. Small, large monster respawn times, 105 seconds. Just reducing gold across the board and all the jungle camps. So yeah, this is pretty cool because I often felt this. If you're a quick farming jungler, this was something that you know, you would farm the jungle, you'd go and maybe gank, you'd recall and start farming the jungle again. This will be a little bit more forgiving for slow jungle clearers now. You won't feel like you're getting outpaced to a ridiculous extent on your first or second clear, which is pretty cool to see. Also, I do like that they're trying to make ganking a bit more viable. Like, you know, it's very hard to weave in time effectively to gank in Wild Rift. Like, you were just constantly feeling like you were missing out on jungle experience. And if you're, you know, and gold. And if you didn't make your gank work, the enemy jungler who didn't gank was just getting a load of experience and gold over you. So that's one of the problems that I really had when I was jungling and still am jungling. So yeah, I like this change a lot. Baron has felt strong in its ability to completely choke out a game. At the same time, it was also spawning quite early into the game. So they're reducing the spawn time and Baron empowered minion bonus damage is going down. This is effectively going to increase the length of a game, by the way. You know, this is effectively making these games last likely a bit longer than they are on average. So you'll probably see the average game time go up. Does make Baron feel a little bit more, you know, have a bit more counterplay, because it did feel like Baron buff minions did not have that much counterplay. This is a pretty big change, though. I actually really like this change. I don't know about how you guys felt, but it really did feel to me like, to be honest with you, the games always felt really urgent, because like Baron spawned at 10 minutes, and so suddenly you always had to think about it at 10 minutes, you know. So I quite like this change. It gives teams a bit more breathing room to kind of get into the game, which is pretty cool. Rift Herald can now respawn once after 4 minutes. The default despawn time is now 12 minutes and not 9 minutes. Charge damage to structures is now 1500 plus summoning champions level times 50. I'm not really sure what this means. I guess this is basically my assumption is that this is essentially making it slightly weaker in the early game, but if you take the second Rift Herald, it's going to be significantly stronger because you'll be a higher level. I have no idea what the Rift Herald's AD was or what its HP is, so I have no idea what these values actually mean. But that was the way I would think about it. Like, first Rift Herald is going to be slightly less impactful, but second Rift Herald is going to be much more impactful. That's the way I'd think about it anyway. And it sorry. It's also going to deal 70% of its current HP on charge. Loads of communication and social changes, pretty cool. Revival effects and Zhonya's and enchants now have a countdown bar only visible to allies. That's actually pretty cool, by the way. I really like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Melee champions, clicking the attack button has increased sensitivity to choosing melee champions out of your melee attack range. This change means that melee champions will need to rely on the minion button more often to farm in lane. We'll be keeping your eye on your feedback around this change and offer a setting if enough players feel like it's hard to adapt. But we expect this tuning to resolve more issues that it creates, and it will make it less likely for a melee champion to randomly attack a passerby minion when chasing down an enemy. Okay, they're basically making that you chase down melee champions when you tap the attack button more often than not. While the dash in movement direction setting is on, tap casting a dashing ability without the move stick input now dashes at targets instead of the direction that the champion is facing. Tap casting a dashing ability without a move stick input now dashes at targets instead of the direction that the player's champion is facing. Okay, so basically if you tap a dash ability when you're not moving in a certain direction, you just automatically flash towards a target, or like dash towards a target. Just be a bit careful when using flash, because if you take your finger off the wheel and you flash, you might literally flash into the enemy. I've had this problem with flash that I keep tapping it, and it just flashes me the wrong way all the time. I've got to be a bit more conscious about dragging flash rather than just tapping it. We've done some general tuning to make accidental drags when furiously tapping on the attack button less likely to occur. We've increased the maximum size of an ability button to help players drag aim on longer range abilities and have a wider range of tuning for drag sensitivity. Added touch feedback for store and other areas for Android and iOS. Added a yellow dot for the store, which will now appear whenever new content is available. Players are now granted a one-time opportunity to select from one of 5 skins after they purchase wildcards for the first time after patch 2.5. So even if you buy the cheapest wildcore, you can randomly select from one of 5 skins. That's pretty cool. Free skins. Well, not free, but basically you could get the chance to get a really cool skin if you just buy some wildcores, which is pretty awesome. Thresh's model and Splash. Is this? Okay, yeah, right, fair enough. They've made Thresh sexy, basically. That's it. That's about everything. Cool. Long patch. enjoy it. Let's see how it goes. In terms of what I think's missing, behavioral things, I'm definitely a little disappointed that we didn't get more nudges towards behavioral changes. I know people have been really keen to ensure that punishing trolls and AFKers is more open. I really would love to see Riot do another one of those like open discussions around behavioral changes again. I think that was really positive for the community, and I'd love to see them maybe tackle that issue again soon. What else would have been nice to see in this patch? I really would love to see more rune like keystone diversity. I know like adding too many can potentially overcomplicate the game for new players, but I would love to see some more keystone diversity, especially things like lethal tempo and maybe some new items as well. Like maybe they're saving that for next year, but I always welcome more diversity as a veteran player, right? So those are the two things that I think I would have wanted to see this patch. But overall, like it's a beefy patch. It does quite a lot for the game. Let's see how it goes.